The JBL soundbar load issue is a common problem where your soundbar gets stuck displaying the word load on its screen and becomes completely unresponsive to controls and remote functions. This issue particularly affects several JBL soundbar model lines, including the Bar 2.1, Bar 5.1, Bar 9.1, and the newer Bar 1000 and 1300 series. The problem has become increasingly common across these models, especially after firmware updates. When your JBL soundbar starts up, it goes through a specific boot sequence. First, hardware initialization performs self-diagnostics. Then firmware loading starts the operating system. Next, connectivity setup establishes Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and HDMI connections. Finally, audio calibration configures speakers and sound profiles. The load message typically appears when the boot sequence fails during the firmware loading stage. This is where most problems occur, causing the soundbar to get stuck and become unresponsive. There are 4 main causes of load issues. Firmware corruption is the most common, often occurring during interrupted updates. Power supply instability can cause incomplete boot cycles. Memory overflow happens when system data accumulates over time. Connectivity conflicts with external devices can also trigger the problem. According to technical experts, approximately 78% of load issues stem from interrupted firmware updates. This is why it's absolutely critical to never disconnect power during firmware update processes, even if the update appears to be frozen. Before attempting any fixes, perform these initial diagnostic steps. Check the LED pattern indicators on your soundbar, as they provide crucial information about the type of failure. Verify all power connections and disconnect external devices to isolate the problem. Pay special attention to LED patterns. A solid red light indicates hardware failure. Flashing amber suggests firmware corruption. Alternating colors mean the device is stuck in a boot loop. No lights at all typically points to a power supply issue. Understanding these fundamentals will help you identify the specific type of load issue affecting your JBL soundbar and determine the most appropriate troubleshooting approach. When your JBL soundbar is stuck on the load screen, there are several troubleshooting steps you can take. We'll start with factory reset procedures, then move to firmware recovery methods. The first step is performing a standard factory reset. This procedure works for most JBL soundbar models and resolves the majority of loading issues. First, power off your soundbar completely. Make sure it's fully shut down before proceeding to the next step. Next, locate the volume down and Bluetooth buttons on your soundbar. You'll need to hold both of these buttons simultaneously for 10 to 15 seconds. Release the buttons when you see the LED indicators flash amber and white alternately. This indicates the reset process has begun. Wait 2 to 3 minutes for the complete reset cycle to finish. For newer JBL soundbar models from 2024 and later, there's an enhanced deep factory reset procedure that's more thorough than the standard reset. Start by disconnecting all cables except the power cable. Remove HDMI, optical, USB, and any other connections, leaving only the power cord plugged in. Now hold 3 buttons simultaneously: power, source, and volume up. Hold these for 20 seconds until the LED cycles through multiple colors and finally turns solid white. Watch for the LED to cycle through colors: red, amber, white, then blue. When it shows a solid white light, release the buttons and allow 5 to 10 minutes for the full restoration process. If factory reset doesn't resolve the loading issue, the next step is firmware recovery. This addresses corrupted firmware that may be preventing proper startup. First, disconnect all connections and test the boot process with only the power cable connected. This isolates any potential conflicts from external devices. To access firmware recovery mode, hold the source and Bluetooth buttons while powering on the soundbar. This enters a special diagnostic mode for firmware repair. Once in recovery mode, connect to the JBL One app for emergency firmware download. Ensure you have a stable internet connection throughout this process, as interruption can cause further issues. If these standard recovery methods don't work, advanced techniques like USB firmware installation or network recovery protocols may be necessary. These typically require professional assistance or technical expertise.